Michael Harris continues to be the hottest hitter in baseball as the Braves take down the Guardians 10-1 to win the series and set up a possible sweep. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. That is Jake Mastroianni, host of Locked On Braves. Follow him on social media at Shortstop Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Locked On Braves, because I think Jake might have to talk about, can the Braves make the playoffs this season? The Atlanta Braves just continue to be nuclear at the plate. They win this one 10-1. It's a record-tying multi-hit game by Michael Harris. He's now tied with some pretty notable names, including Hank Aaron and the best CJ to ever play for the team, Chris Johnson, for consecutive games with multiple hits. And we're going to get to the pitching and all of that. But this offense, if this is the Michael Harris that you get, and if this is the offense that you get, it next season, Jake, it feels like the expectations should be, again, World Series contender if this is the offense that you're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, it's been the missing piece for this team really all year long. And even, obviously going back to last year, you had one of the best rotations in baseball, if not the best. You just didn't have any offense to go along with it. So, you get that going once again, and maybe it's just a confidence thing. And maybe this is what they needed to kind of get that confidence going. But certainly you get an offense like this, as you mentioned, a Michael Harris like this, that does look like an MVP candidate. And we've all kind of been waiting on that for him, but we've also seen him do this in second halves before. So myself, again, a shameless plug for the podcast I did last week talking about Michael Harris. I'm still going to be a little bit skeptical until we see him do it in the first half of a season, but I mean, he can do no wrong right now. Just absolutely incredible what he's doing. But the rest of the lineup too, I mean, we've been talking about it for 2 weeks now. I think just how good this offense has looked, how good the at-bats have looked up and down. I think some of that's probably course correction. They couldn't be as bad as they were in the first half and as unlucky as they were in the first half. So you knew that had to even out a little bit at some point. But you also are just, getting the type of offense that you thought we could get all along. And certainly you get an offense like this and you get Chris Sale back and Spencer Schwellenbach. Strider gets an off season to hopefully recoup. You get, a Joey Wentz stays around in the rotation. You get a Hurston Waldrop and others, Ronaldo Lopez, Grant Holmes. You get all that pitching back healthy. Then, there's no reason why this team can't come back and compete for a World Series next year. Yeah, if they don't make the playoffs this year, if it's not over this year.
Yeah, they are. Here's the thing, mathematically, they're not eliminated. We're obviously a couple weeks away from ever having to seriously discuss that. But it does feel like chasing down the Marlins for third place. You're 3.5 games back of Miami. They're on a 3-game losing streak going into tonight. And then potentially maybe even 500 back on the table for the Braves if they keep playing like this. Because the big thing tonight that I noticed, it wasn't just Michael Harris was great, obviously. Massive home run, bat flip, everything was fantastic. But they get a 2-for-5 night from Ronald Acuna Jr. Marcell Ozuna goes 2 for 3. Drake Baldwin scores twice. Nacho Alvarez goes 3 for 5 with 2 runs and an RBI. My guy Nick Allen is 3 for 4 with 2 RBI and a run, with 3 batted balls of all 99 miles an hour or harder. None of them were barrels, so doesn't have the home run, but he's putting balls into play 99.8, 100.7, 101.9. He's buying into what Atlanta's doing after 100 and something games. This offense, not consistently top to bottom. Ozzie Albies still struggles a bit tonight, has a costly pop-up, right? But for the most part, you're getting even the guys who aren't hitting. Jurickson Profar's hit list, he walks twice. It's just almost everything's working for Atlanta right now, and it makes you feel like this is why you can't just give up on the season and pack it in, right? This is why you keep playing, because now the outlook starts to be a little bit better for next season, and it gives us a much better idea of what to work on this winter.
Yeah, and again, as I alluded to earlier, I think just the confidence factor of this team, knowing that they can hit again. I mean, that's what we talked about at the halfway mark. One of the things we discussed is you really just need this team to play well down the stretch to have good vibes going into the offseason and into next year, because it has been a bad season. I mean, there's no other way around it, and it's still looking like it's going to be a bad season because you're going to miss the playoff and miss a year in this window with all this talent to have another chance to win a World Series. But I do think they are going to try to, quickly turn it around and win next year. And so it would obviously help if you could have a strong finish to this season to give you that belief that, hey, we can still do this. We're still good ball players. We're still really talented. We just got to have some more belief in ourselves and that this lineup can work. And maybe even for Tim hires, we'll see what happens with the coaching staff in the offseason. That could all be completely flipped. But, showing that we can have that versatile type of offense and we can do it in different ways. And it's just kind of that ability to put it all together, to have the power, which you saw tonight, to have that on-base ability, which we've seen all year long with the walks, but now kind of putting it all together. And you could have that offense that I think what you really envisioned when you hired Tim Hires, and having that more well-rounded offense that does have the power and the on-base ability that was missing last year.
Yeah, and something I alluded to, I think it was last night, maybe it was the Mets series. You saw it again tonight. The clutch hitting, Atlanta was 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position. Not amazing, but that's a 333. I mean, that's if that's a batting average, that's amazing. You're fantastic. You love that. And 2-out RBI. The guys who got 2-out RBI, right? Nacho Alvarez got 1. Nick Allen got 2. And to me, it's a big deal to see not only are they producing at the plate, they're producing in clutch moments. And I think that's just a ton of fun. And that's really, that makes it a lot more fun, one, for us to do this show. And then, for everybody who's watching, the Braves diehards who come on this pod and, watch, there's 183 y'all right now here on YouTube watching us live. You guys, I want the Braves to win for you guys, because that's a lot more fun than watching losses and having me and Jake come here and rant about it for 10 minutes after the pod or after the game's over. In just a second, I want to talk about the pitching, Jake, because Joey Wentz looks really good. And Hunter Stratton got the 3-inning save. I love these. We'll talk about that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite with a non-alcoholic boost. It's perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusions deliver the clubhouse flavors you love without ever needing to leave the green. Because golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. That's a perfectly standard thing that everybody always says about golf. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the beverage cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament that's not the Masters in the United States. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. All right, Jake, another great outing from Joey Wentz. I'm going to move closer to the screen so everybody watching makes us feel like our heads are the same size. 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 2 walks to 5 strikeouts. Gives up a solo shot, right? I think it was Rocchio had that. But outside of that, just looks really good. Again, he just continues the thing that he's been doing. And there's a comment in here I want to highlight from Southside in the chat. Joey Wentz and Hurston Waldrop should be locks to be starters next year. I do think if everybody comes back healthy, you have more guys than you can fit into the 5-man rotation to start the year. Obviously, you're going to need plenty. But when you dive under the hood a little bit onto what Joey Wentz is doing, 4-seam cutter, curveball were the only 3 pitches he threw tonight. He got 10 whiffs on 46 swings. He had a 22% CSW, but also he only gave up 5 hard hit balls. Like, I feel like this maybe isn't completely sustainable, but I can't put into words why. Am I just scarred from all of the impressive performances that turned out to be duds later? Or is this something where maybe I'm missing something in Joey Wentz and this is legit and sustainable?
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking at it from an analytical perspective, it's hard to see how he can keep this up when you're only having, a 22% whiff rate or a 22% CSW. You really want that around 30 or higher is obviously really good there. Mm-hmm. And so you're really just
league average is 30% on CSW. Like that's yeah.
So you're really just banking on getting weak contact. And when you're getting it, it's great. 85 mile per hour average exit velocity against tonight. I mean, he was getting a ton of weak contact. Mm-hmm. But it's just that type of pitcher. There can be various outcomes with that as well. It takes some good luck in there too. But his last outing, I remember correctly, he wasn't getting a lot of whiffs. He wasn't getting a lot of called strikes. His CSW was pretty low in that one too, but he gave up a lot of hard hit balls, which made me really worried. At least in this one, still didn't have that high CSW, but at least he wasn't getting a ton of hard contact. But there's just going to be those variances with pitchers like this. So it just makes it a little bit tougher. Certainly you can have success if you're able to, command those pitches better, kind of like we talked about with Hurston Waldrop. He doesn't necessarily have to have command because his pitches are so good and have so much movement. He just needs control. But I think for somebody like a Joey Wentz, you're going to have better command of those pitches to make sure that you're missing barrels on pitches in the zone. He did a better job of that in this one, but it's just kind of that fine line we talk about with Bryce Elder as well. He's just one of those pitchers, he's going to pitch to contact. You're hoping he's getting ground balls and you hope he's getting that weak contact and you hope that contact is going to somebody. And it's just like, it takes all of those things kind of put together in order for him to have some success. But I mean, you can't really deny the results. Again, we're just looking at it analytically and saying, okay, at some point it feels like this is going to come back around. But, it's still, you got to look at the results, and he's absolutely been getting it done. He is out of options. So if he's going to be in the rotation next year, he's going to have to stay in that rotation. They could obviously maneuver around that with health, or if they move Ronaldo or Grant Holmes to the bullpen, at least to start the year, could be a way to keep Joey Wentz in the rotation if this strong finish continues, and that's what they want to do with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think you kind of worded it right when you said like he's walking a fine line and it's worked out so far. It doesn't necessarily feel like that's going to. I think over a larger sample size, it feels like that may not continue, especially if he's only throwing those three pitches. Right? He doesn't have a fourth pitch to kind of work off of. This has really just been four-seam cutter curveball, and the curveball is the least thrown one of those. He threw 20 of them tonight. Got only 7 swings and only 2 whiffs on those. But if nothing else, it feels like it's a very high quality. I don't know if he's in the rotation to start the year. Maybe he's a long man at the bullpen and they use him as spot starter. And then maybe he becomes a starter when there's an injury inevitable. You always lose a guy or at least one every year. This year you lost 5. You always lose at least one guy every year. But either way, he was fantastic. And then a bullpen that's been worked so much recently because of some short starts in the last couple games. Not last night, obviously. Bryce Elder did enough last night. But you get Hunter Stratton, 3 innings, gets the 3 inning save, 3 hits, no walks, no runs, 3 strikeouts. Am I wrong for thinking that maybe you actually, short of maybe some sort of back-end arm, like you might legitimately have enough pieces to build an above average bullpen here? Like, yes, you have to figure out closer because Raisel Iglesias is a free agent, but Dylan Lee's looked really good. You've seen a lot of guys who can come up and be that long bulk man. Kind of feels like you're looking better than you maybe had been in your bullpen. I can't in your bullpen next year. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean I certainly think you're going to have to go out and find a solid, proven guy or two in the offseason. But there's also some good arms coming up in the minors that probably need to get a shot. Hayden Harris, obviously at the top of that list. I don't know what he has left to prove in the minors right now. He just continues to put up good results. But yeah, I mean, you're looking at Bummer. Johnson, I know they don't use Bummer in high leverage situations, but Bummer, Johnson, Dylan Lee, at least coming back. We've talked about it this week. I talked about it on the mailbag episode, another shameless plug here. I mean, you get Iggy back on a 1 year, $8-10 million deal. I think it could be worth it at this point, depending on what else is available to you out there. So yeah, I mean, there's the makings of putting things together. I still think you need to go out. You can't do what you did in this season, going into this season, and knowing that you probably lack
guys.
And just not do anything. Like you got to go out and get some proven relievers to at least help give you some depth for guys who either get injured or guys who, take a step back. Joe Jimenez as well, be back next year. So yeah, I mean, there's, and if you move Ronaldo or Grant Holmes to the bullpen, I mean, it's even stronger there too. So I think they certainly, the bullpen and rotation, honestly, are starting to look, a little bit more comfortable, and the offense for that matter. I mean, when you're playing good, Lindsay, things start to look a little bit, better. True. You forget, everything that happened in that first half. But I don't think it's to be an offseason. I'll go ahead and say this. I don't think it needs to be an offseason where you just say, hey, we played good in the second half. Let's just stick with that. I still think they need to be aggressive in trying to upgrade the all aspects of this team in the offseason.
Yeah, and what's good about this free agency class is not only one, you've reset or you're projected to reset the CBT, so your qualifying offer penalties drop a lot, but there's a lot of top end names both in the relief market and the starting pitching market. So you have options here, right? If you decided to go get a top flight starter or two and move Lopez to the bullpen, you can keep Lopez as a starter and go grab a top reliever or two. Like you have multiple paths here. And I feel like that's not something that we've been able to project for the Braves recently. I'll do a shameless plug as well. Coming up early next week, we have a newsletter coming out all about Atlanta's potential free agency paths based on the money that I've calculated that they should have for next year's payroll versus this year's payroll, as far as commitments and things like that. So stay tuned for that, bravestoday.com. All right, so again, 10-1 victory by the Braves over the Guardians. Finale at 1:40 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, a little bit of a weirder time than usual. Eric Fetty versus Logan Allen. And with Chris Sale potentially being back in the next week or week and a half, right? He makes a rehab start on Sunday in Gwinnett. It almost feels like Eric Fetty may need to have a good start to keep his job. We'll see how it goes. Jake and I will be back to break it down after the game tomorrow. Do us a favor. If you're listening on audio, 5-star review, Apple, Spotify. Words of affirmation are always appreciated. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Braves and Locked On Sports Atlanta. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live to break down these games and everything else about your Atlanta Braves, as well as the great stuff at Locked On Sports Atlanta. Falcons, Hawks, all that good stuff. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Lindsay Crosby. This has been the Braves Postcast.